I'm Tom Grossi, a New York City comedian and diehard Green Bay Packers fan for almost 20 years.
It is caught for the win. Richard Rodgers with a walk-off touchdown. A game ender for the Packers.
In 2015, I created a podcast where each week I talk to fans from opposing teams to share their story and to get yelled at for about an hour for being a Packers fan. Last year, I met amazing people and went to amazing places. And this year, I'm ready to do it all over again.
Make no mistake about it, I will be remembered as a Packer.
Enjoy the show. Grossi Posse Packer Nation, welcome to another episode of Packast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. That sucked. That sucked a lot. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel good. I mean, it never feels good to lose. I mean, I have mixed feelings because right now, this is probably the least painful playoff exit in the past 4 years. Which, I don't know if that's a bright side, but, I mean, this game was over by halftime. There was 24-0. There was no way that we were going to come back from that. And we'll get into the specifics in a second, but, I mean, it's I think that the number one thing that's bad is that it sucks to have such a great run and for it to end and be so not competitive. And I think that's what this feeling is right now, because for the past 5 seasons, you know, we've gone out on the last play, whether it be overtime, whether it be, you know, just a last second field goal. That's how we've been eliminated. And I think it would have hurt even more last week if we had lost to the Cowboys. So, I mean, like, let's talk about this season real quick before we even get into the game. I mean, this team was 4-6, and everybody wrote the Packers off, and every analyst out there said that they weren't making the playoffs. They were talking about Aaron Rodgers being done, firing McCarthy, firing Capers, firing Ted Thompson. Everybody was going to be fired. And we went on an amazing streak that brought us not only to win the division, but brought us to the NFC Championship game. And I think if you told me when we were sitting at 4-6 that, hey, you're going to go to the NFC Championship game, I wouldn't have believed you. And I think that's the kind of one thing I'm holding on to. That's a silver lining, is that this turnaround, this season has just been so much fun. In that it was terrible for a while. It was really, really bad. And it just became so much fun. I mean, we have been in this playoff mentality for 2 months now. For the past 8 games, we've been like that. In that if we lose one, we're done. And, you know, through all of the injuries and all of the setbacks, we still made it to the NFC Championship game. And I think that's something to rest your hat on as a Packers fan. I mean, I'm taking solace in that. And it was a hell of a season. It really was. I mean, looking at this game, this had a bad game written all over it. In that the first drive, the number one thing coming in here was going to be how our defense stopped their high-powered offense. And we got some amazing news before the game. Jordy Nelson was going to play. Barnett was going to play. And talking about who else? Rollins was going to play. And then also you had, you know, Darrell Allison, you had Devontae Adams. It seemed like this secondary was going to be as strong as it had been almost all season. And that's not saying very much. And so I had a lot of faith in this team. And it went downhill very quickly after the first drive, and they just moved the ball on us. I was like, okay, you know, like let's just answer back. And then it was the missed field goal. And I said, oh no, that's not good. They score again, but we held them to a field goal. Then we fumbled. And in each of those 2 drives, we moved the ball very efficiently and just didn't come away with any points. And it turned into a blowout really, really quick. And you talk about momentum shifts. If the Packers score even a field goal on that first drive and a touchdown on the next one, you have a 10-10 game. And the momentum kind of shifts then. You can't play the what if game, but this game was definitely over by halftime because our defense could not stop a thing, like not even a little bit. And listen, we have a lot of injuries, and I'm not going to blame this game on injuries. I'm not going to blame this game on the refs because I think that's taking anything away from the Falcons, who were by far the better team, but. I mean, I don't know if it was the injuries that just caught up to us. I don't know what it was, but our defense could not stop their offense anytime. It was disgusting. It was really, really bad. It was either Julio Jones caught 9 balls for 180 yards and had 2 touchdowns. Disgusting. Sanu had a touchdown. He seemed like he was open. Devontae Freeman had a touchdown. It was just... they have so many weapons, and we could not. Someone was open every single time, and it seemed it was always over the middle. It was always a slant route. It was always the drop off that somebody was open, and we just could not cover if our lives depended on it. So regardless of, even if our offense was scoring on all those different opportunities, our defense couldn't stop anything, and we just needed to score a touchdown every single time just to try to play catch up, and we just never were able to. But the fact that this offense was shut out by this Falcons defense, who made Aaron Rodgers look extremely uncomfortable. Rodgers, looking at his game, he was not playing like he usually did. 27 for 45, missed almost 20 passes, 287, 3 touchdowns. He had that pick. It was, and that pick, is kind of bogus because he's just trying to make a play, but that game was over before the pick. And no matter what we could have done, the defense playing the way it was, we didn't have a chance. And I thought we did. I really, really thought we did. The fact that we were able to stop the Cowboys and quell the Giants and their receivers, but the Falcons, they were a much better team today. And like I said, it was just a disappointing ending because we had been so competitive for the past 8 games. For it to just end like this was really, really bad. Let's talk about the puppy for a second. She's 8-0, and then dropping to 8-1, and then these past 3 hours were rough. That's a lot of trolls and a lot of people coming out of the woodwork, and because a lot of people don't like the Packers, and it sucks. It doesn't feel great, but it's random people on the internet. I'm gonna go and hang out with my dog after this, and maybe drink some whiskey. But that's about it. But I do want to thank everybody who put out any support. Anybody who has watched this podcast, whether you have been with me for the past 2 years, whether this is the first time that you're watching, or you just started this season. I've loved the conversations that I've had with all of you. It has been absolutely phenomenal. It's something that I'm looking forward to even more next season. We'll do like a season-ending episode once all this is processed. We've had a couple days to do that. But just to give you the quick takes that I have this off season, we need to do something about our secondary. Now that Sam Shield is 99% not going to be coming back, we really need to get some cornerbacks. We need to get some defensive backs, something just to kind of reinforce that defense. And that has been a constant theme for the past 6, 7, 8 years, that our defense needs to be reinforced. And, our run defense wasn't god awful this season at all. And, it seemed only against Ezekiel Elliott or some of the big time runners that we kind of faltered. But it feels like we just spent first round pick after first round pick on defensive players, and, it just hasn't panned out the way we wanted it to. Rollins and Randall, they struggled through injuries this entire season, but they did not really look that great. I'm attributing that to their second-year players. They're going to do better, because if we took Devontae Adams and wrote him off after the second season, he wouldn't have played amazingly. But But we definitely need to look at a cornerback. The offensive line played well. Obviously, they were hurt this game, but we have the weapons on offense that I think we need. A running back, that's going to be something that we may have to look into. It depends if we sign Lacey or not yet, because considering he was in a contract year. I mean, the number one thing that keeps popping up, and this has popped up in the podcast as well, is that, Rodgers, are we wasting his years prime? Are we wasting his youth? And that the reason that he's never going to get another ring is because of this defense. And during the press conference afterwards, Rodgers said, he doesn't feel like his clock is ticking, but we need to make sure that we're going in all in every single year. And I completely agree with him. And, for a lot of fans, it means like, let's spend money. And I mean, who knows? I mean, we know that Ted Thompson is not the kind of guy to go out and get big free agents. Jared Cook worked out fantastic this year, but he was kind of like bottom of the barrel. Thankfully, he worked out for us, and I'm sure he's going to be re-signed. But I mean, Julius Peppers, didn't have the biggest impact. He didn't play too much. He was kind of just a third down guy. But it's going to be very interesting moving forward. And I know that the Packers always want to make big offseason moves, but they're just not that kind of team. And I'd be surprised if they became that kind of team in the offseason. But this game, I mean, just to forget about this game for a second, I mean, it was bad. I mean, we had no running game, but we couldn't even get a chance to. This was not Packers football. This was really bad. But congrats to the Atlanta Falcons. You were the much better team. They'll be playing either the Steelers or the Patriots. That game is going on right now as we film this. And I mean, we're not getting a Patriots-Packers Super Bowl. And I think if this makes anything hurt more, it's that 2014 season. Like, this makes the Seahawks loss in 2014 hurt even more, because we should have had that Super Bowl. We should have just had that opportunity. And, it was one of those things I was like, let's just get to Houston. And if we lost there, okay, we lost in the Super Bowl, at least we made it. But it just wasn't meant to be this season. I'm hoping, because again, we were not healthy all season, I'm hoping that we can come back and be even stronger for the next season. And, Rodgers was talking about it in his press conference, that this just highlights the importance of home field advantage, in that, you don't have to travel. Their plane got in really late because of fog. They had to drive down to Milwaukee, which I've done that. But, it was, I had a lot of fun with you guys. I really, really did. And it's obviously disappointing, but, we'll pick ourselves up. And, by next season, by the time that rolls around, we'll be getting excited again. We'll be getting that feeling again. And hopefully it'll have a little bit of a better ending. So the way that the schedule is going to work, we're most likely not going to have an interview this week. I'll do a Super Bowl recap episode next week, and then, or not next week, then in 2 weeks. And next week I'll do a kind of a season ending, and then we'll do something for the draft, and then we'll go on vacation. We'll go into the off season. But again, I wanted to thank every single person who is tuned into this, commented, and I love talking to you. And it's this is a really fun season for me. So thanks again. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com, TomGrossi Comedy, or Tom Grossi Comedy on Twitter, Packast, Packast, SoundCloud, iTunes, the once a week we do on YouTube, also on Google Music. Thank you so much for checking us out. Packers fans, I know you're sad today, but we have a lot to be proud of for this team. So chin up, drink tonight, and I'll see you next week. I'm Tom Grossi, and as always, go Pack Go.